Yo, JD here, Limitless, and as you can see, we are back on F1 2019 here today. However, it says F1 2020 Esports Series Germany, and this is the qualifying event for this next year's series already. So they've already released the first event, which I presume is going to be more events in very, very quick succession just after the recent pro draft. And this one here, you're in the Haas. No longer Rich Energy. I don't know how long it's going to take for them to get moved. I presume it's going to be already this weekend. But you're a Roman Grosjean in the Haas. You have to catch Sergio Perez within 6 or so laps. And basically, your fastest lap gets you extra points. The time you do it gets you extra points. Quite a tricky event because it's very, very hard to stay on the track, as you can see. But I will be showing you my fastest run. And this is against the 110 AI with no assists, as usual, because you will be penalised if you do use assists, use any flashbacks, go off the track or anything at all. So you have to keep it nice and tidy. And this is the fastest run that I did. So going into this first corner here, really want to stay within the limits, but want to push it as much as you possibly can. Braking about once you hit the curb, slow in fast out for this corner, and I can't really say that enough. I noticed when I was doing this event, I did it for about an hour and a half, which I streamed this yesterday. You really need to go slow and fast out there because you will lose a lot of lap time if you don't do that. Again, for this one, really try and slow it down on that apex. If you just carry a bit too much speed, it's going to be quite sluggish on the exit. So again, slow in, fast out, flat out for this right-hander. And using the ERS, you don't really start with that much in this event. You start with like 30 or 25 to 30%. So you have to be very, very careful with it. I don't use any ERS through this last sector at all, even at the end of the sector 2. Again, really want to be taking it nice and tight going through here. As you go past that black box on the right hand side, that's your turning in point. Third gear can really, really push the acceleration in this car. It's got very good traction in this Haas, or Haas, whatever you want to pronounce it. And again, very, very tricky, probably the two hardest corners on the track are the last two corners, along with this first corner, because first corner you can lose a lot of time if you don't really push it. And again here, managing to do a very good first lap of a 14.0, so that's a pretty good example of what you should be doing. And again, don't want to be drifting out more than half a track's width going through that turn 2. If you go beyond that and make the next corner turn 3 tighter than it needs to be, you're going to be slower all the way down this main straight. And again, putting it back into no ERS through here, really almost making the rears lock a little bit because I'm using 56 brake bias. My setup, what I used, I'll leave a link in the description to the stream. You'll be able to see the full setup of what I used. I think it was 3-4 wings I used here, which seemed to work quite nicely. A very tricky corner through here, once again, completely flat out through this corner. And again, just about staying within the limits. I used standard for this last sector and no ERS. And I found when I was using hot lap overtaking the first sector back down to Rich, just for most of the middle sector, and then no ERS through here, I found that gave me, it gave me the best ERS strategy that I did through here. So hopefully you can take something away from this video as well. Basically, I'm just telling you what I was going through my mind. Managed to do a 14.3 once again. Managing to just leave a little bit room on the table for that turn 1, because if you get one warning, your points, if you want any chance of getting the top 3, top 5, pretty much out the window. And even if you use a flashback, you can pretty much say goodbye to that, because most people at the top are going to be running 110 AI without any flashbacks, no warnings or anything at all. You can't really rely on just your raw pace to just beat them, although you could do that, but the guys at the top, especially in the top 10, top 15, are going to be pretty similar-ish on pace, although you do have a couple of aliens when it comes to one lap pace, people like Surprise and stuff like that, who are just ridiculous on one lap pace and stuff on this game at the moment. So, and obviously the more you practice this, probably the better time that you're going to get. Did an hour and a half here, but I think I could probably knock off about a second and a bit on my total race time, but I was pretty happy with this attempt here. Nice and consistent, pretty solid. The lap times you really want to be aiming for is probably in the low 14s every single lap. And that may differ depending on which console or what platform you're on. Typically, PC has always been the quickest platform out of all of them. Not quite sure why. Probably because of the frames per second and stuff like that used, and other various things are going on. But I think for me on Xbox, I think a 14.0, probably a 13. If you could get in the 13s as a fast lap, as you can see here, that was an example of me going a little bit too deep. So you can see, lost 2 tenths in that first sector, and just that slightest error by just going a car length, maybe a half a car length a bit too deep, has really compromised me down this main straight here as well. But yeah, as I was saying, I think really you want to be aiming for maybe a 13 if you want to get a top time at like a first place or something like that, probably a high 13 and then very low 14s for the rest of it. Whereas here I was doing a 14.0 and then low 14s, mid 14s for the rest of it, which I feel was a pretty solid time. It should hopefully be enough for, I think it would be enough for top 10 overall. A little bit more sweating, I think I can definitely challenge for number 1 spot. But now on this event, haven't really had to overtake too many cars here, but now you're coming up behind Sergio Perez, and ideally for me you really want to be overtaking him on the penultimate lap on the main DRS straight. So we're already in DRS zone here, which is pretty nice because we're not going to be close enough to be affected that much by dirty air, and we can save a little bit of ERS as well. And you can see not pushing it too hard through turn 1 because it's just a bit of a risk just going out wide in that corner. So probably push it a little bit more, and this time staying nice and tight middle of the track this time. As I said, if you overextend that corner, you're going to be very, very slow down straight. Wanted to be a little bit closer down this main straight than I was, but the straight line speed is very powerful with the DRS this year. However, the AI, this 110 AI, are very aggressive, so he's going to continue going down my inside, trying to go around the outside without making any sort of contact, getting the move done. So we've got a little bit of ERS to play with, which is surprisingly easy to save around here. Didn't really want to go defensive in here because, again, very aggressive on this game, so quite fortunate there. And now it's just to try and keep your head down and just give it the maximum on the last lap, as your tyres are now probably starting to fall away. Well, they were for me, they're falling away just a little bit. You can see 4 tenths down going into this last sector here. But ideally, if I do this run again, I want to be a little bit closer going into that penultimate lap. If I can get a clean overtake without having to leave space on the inside going to the hairpin, would have probably gained about a few attempts here. So I think the laps before this are probably going to have gained up to half a second of laps going into that penultimate lap. I can see almost 6 in the car here now because I really just wanted to push it, just give it the maximum I could. Fuel is quite difficult here. You want to run rich for the most of the first sector, but then standard and lean. I even run lean in the last sector just to give me a little bit better traction and to cool the engine down, because engine cooling is pretty difficult. You can see running into 5% ERS, but although you run about 5-6%, that's where I normally change it. Once it hits 5% in that straight, that's where I go back to under none. You can see saving quite a bit of ERS, and in that last sector, since you're not really using any ERS, it's actually pretty easy to keep starting the lap of around 25 to about 30% is what I found. So I thought that was a kind of a good strategy for me, although there probably might be a better strategy once you play it over time. But now running back into the red for the fuel, so I'm running into lean here, and I'm just going to leave it in hot lap to the end of the race here. Already done my objective of overtaking Sergio Perez, and now it's literally just trying to go as fast as possible. So I'm really just trying to throw it into these corners now, coming off here, timing the fuel to perfection, and the ERS coming across the line. And I thought that was a pretty solid run. Hopefully that's something you can actually learn from, and we'll be able to see where I actually came on that leaderboard there. So we've got a really nice name subscriber subscribing to me. And I have to say as well, thank you so much for 70,000 subscribers. As you can see by the screen, got constantly people subscribing in the stream last night. Absolutely phenomenal. I just can't thank you enough for the support that I've had on my channel. It's really, really humbling to me, and hopefully we can achieve the objective that I really want to achieve, which would be 100k subscribers at some point. If I got that, then that's my life complete, really, if I do that. But I thought that was a pretty solid run. 14.0. Ideally, I think I can get a 13, high 13. But if you want to look at the setup I use, I'll leave a link to the full stream in the description, which is unlisted down below, if you want to see that. Didn't really change it apart from my wings, really. But that was my fastest run. You'll be able to see where I am on the leaderboard now, which is, I think it's in 4th place or something like that. So we'll see that here. 4th place, about 3,000, 4,000 behind Surprise, but only 2,000 behind 2nd place. Definitely doable. 1st place is even doable if you get a really, really good run, because if you just get a couple attempts faster lap, that bumps you up 1,500. And I definitely could have made up about a second worth of lap time over those few laps with Just a couple of little mistakes, and also just getting past Perez at the right point as well. So that is my video here for today. Thank you so much, and I will catch you soon. Peace.